So in this video, I'm sanding down a built-in Islandtop that we couldn't remove because how it was installed. It's 19 years old, so it had its time. I'm sanding it down with a Fato sander here with a great dust extractor. And I started with 60 and worked myself up to 180. And you could see sanding the edges here. I have little profile sanders, which is really important to sand the finish off. Otherwise, when you apply the oil or the finish that you choose to apply, it will be a different color if it's not sanded down to bare wood. So I'm using these little profile sanders here. It wasn't very hard. It was quite easy. The finish was very old and it came off pretty quickly. So after I was done, I applied the OSMO oil to it. This is the very first coat. And I'm using a Scotch-Brite pad. You can buy these real thick pads, I think, from other applicators. But I think the thicker it is, the more material you're wasting. So I'm just using a thin one and I'm working it into the wood really well, and making sure that the oil is really worked into the wood. The room was actually quite cool, so I didn't have to do the patching where I only do half and then I do the other half. So you could see here I'm working it into the edges. The two ends, the short ends, are end grain, so those will soak up a lot more oil. So you could see that I'm working it into the edges from time to time here. I'm pretty used to this oil, so I didn't do a lot of masking. But if you haven't done this project before, I highly recommend you tape off the finished areas so you don't make a mess and then you have a lot of cleanup to do. Here you could see again, I'm working it into the edges. And then I'll do the other half of it. And I typically let this sit for about 15-20 minutes to really soak into the wood. And keep working it into. The first coat is important because that is the one that really seals the wood off. And rubbing it into in little circle motions you could see. And then in the end, I kind of pull it on with the grain so it smooths it out a little bit. Once the oil set there for about 15-20 minutes, I cut that time out of the video. I use one rag where I wipe off the main oil that's left over after it's been soaking in. Give it a good rub. And very important that you either soak the oily rags into water or you put them out flat somewhere outside where it could dry up properly. If you put them in a plastic bag and you leave them in there, it's most likely going to combust because these oils tends to do spontaneous combustion in a rag, and the last thing you want is a fire either in your house or in a trash can somewhere. So I recommend that you just let it dry out or soak it into water. And after this, next day, I applied a second coat. You could see here, it's going on a lot thinner and also faster. I let this sit for about 10-15 minutes and apply the same exact procedure. Pull it with the grain and then let it sit for a while. And I come back and I wipe it down with a a rag. And again, don't forget to soak it in water. That's probably the safest way to do it. I usually apply several coats, 3 coats usually, and you could see it drying right here.